Hi, welcome back to the European Show. It's your new one-stop shop, I hope, for transcontinental politics, society, and the occasional scandal or many scandals, because there's been a lot going on in the drama department when it comes to the European Union itself. I'm Abby Bella. This is your left perspectives and progressive takes on global issues with a European lens. So let's get into the drama. There's a lot of drama about 2 weeks ago regarding what is now known as Sofagate that involved the top officials of the European Union having a bit of a spat over who gets to sit where when they went to see Erdogan in Turkey. But we'll get to that second. First, I want to take a look at another drama that's been going on in the European Union, and that is like a major deal. Because it affects the face of the European Union. It affects the way, not just the way that is perceived, but also the way that Europeans are likely to perceive themselves. And one big thing that happened today is the European Parliament has been voting on the Brexit deal. This is just a formality. The deal has been brokered, or like if you can call it a deal. It's very simple stuff. Basically, the United Kingdom is not a part of the European Union anymore, and they are not part of the European single market. They can't participate in that. They're just a country aside from there. And free movement has ended. So Europeans can't live in the United Kingdom freely, and British people can't freely live in other places in Europe. There's a bunch of different concessions. They fall into different categories when it comes to certain concessions that are made for the markets and different types of trade, different types of technology development. So there's still like a bit of a special relationship between the two countries, but Brexit means Brexit. One of the reasons that the deal was not ideal is that the United Kingdom did not want to concede a lot of the points when the negotiations were happening. Now, although the European Parliament vote tonight, it's tonight, and tomorrow morning we will have the result. It will be Brexit. It will be pushed through. They will approve this deal for sure. But there's been some interesting developments and some interesting catty drama that's come out of this. So first of all, what's going to happen with this vote is that the European Parliament, the vote goes the overseeing of Brexit is kind of in the department of the European Commission, and the European Commission has given the European Parliament and legislature policing power. This is what Politico calls it, that members of European Parliament will have the power to police whether the terms of this Brexit deal are actually being adhered to. And that is because, and this is like not a secret and it's not implied, because a lot of members of Parliament have spoken out about this, and they have like basically said that it's because this is happening because nobody trusts the United Kingdom to keep its side of the deal and to play fair, because they've been doing a lot of rogue stuff. So today, there were a lot of speeches, because it's like, the final kind of, the hammer is falling on this relationship, or a toxic relationship between the United Kingdom and Europe. So here's what Politico said about this policing power, or supervisory power that members of European Parliament will have. Most notably, the Commission vowed it would allow an adequate involvement, quote unquote, of members of European Parliament in the important decisions made under the agreement, amending it, suspending parts of it, or sanctioning Britain over violations of it. The document also affirms the more typical role Parliament plays in overseeing such trade agreements, agreeing to keep members of Parliament immediately and fully informed, etc., etc., etc. So it's like kind of like a point was made about how this is going to need extra power and extra supervision, because it will be violated at some point. That's what we think will happen, that it's going to be violated. This doesn't really have any, this is like an informal thing. It's not really set in stone for the European Parliament and legislators to have a say in this, but it's kind of, a point was made, and I think it's very interesting. Why don't the people of the European Union trust the United Kingdom to keep to its side of the deal and to adhere all the legal regulatory parts of the deal? Because, I mean, this is just a speculation, but maybe it's because the man who is running the country of the United Kingdom comes from a long line of Tory governments and Tory governance over the past decade in this country, now over a decade. And maybe, just maybe, he was also at the helm of the Brexit party, which caused Brexit in the first place. And maybe, just maybe, he's been going back and forth with stories of Brussels and maligning Brussels throughout his entire career as a Tory, a conservative right-wing Tory in the United Kingdom. And maybe, just maybe, Boris Johnson, this man, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, just maybe, he may have called the German people and Angela Merkel Nazis when he was campaigning for Brexit. And maybe, just maybe, he asked Angela Merkel if she was a member of the Stasi back in the day. Just maybe. And said a bunch of other really insulting and horrible, vile things. And this is the kind of level that you're working with when you're, these negotiations with the United Kingdom in the past. That was the level that the European Union was working with. And the European Union always takes the high road and kind of doesn't respond to these provocations. They tend to, they hear stuff like this and they just say, whatever. Obviously, Angela Merkel just ignored him. But that was a very, very dangerous thing. On so many levels. And, the people didn't believe it, and they did vote Brexit, and now they have Brexit, and prices are going up for services and goods because of Brexit, and freedom of movement is no more, so that's nice. There's a lot of other things that have happened in the United Kingdom because of Brexit, but that's like a whole other show. That's not really the point. But the European Union just doesn't trust the United Kingdom because they play dirty. And there's a lot of tension as well over the AstraZeneca scandal, which is another big drama that's been happening in the European Union, because Boris Johnson and his government kind of took advantage of the fact that the AstraZeneca vaccine was developed in the United Kingdom, and they did a lot of kind of brutal neoliberal dealing around it. And even though they signed an agreement with AstraZeneca after the European Union, it was like a 2-day difference, they got the first batch and the main amount of the vaccines when the rollout started happening in the past. And the European Union, for a long time, and still now in a way, kind of fell behind on that because they were depending on the AstraZeneca vaccine. And AstraZeneca went back on the contract that they signed. It was a pre-contractual agreement, and there's like a whole drama about that. But it was like, the European Union is a solid, foundational, financial, German-esque kind of operation. Like when they make an agreement, when they make contractual or pre-contractual obligations, they keep to them. They don't do that, they're not like wheeling, dealing American psycho people. But Boris Johnson is, and he like made a point of kind of intercepting the majority of the AstraZeneca rollout, and has been kind of really doing a lot of propaganda on that, and like kind of making it out like the United Kingdom is ahead of the EU because now like they don't have these like moral constraints anymore, and they have to do like proper testing, so they're ahead now because like we're first, we're going to be there first, and to hell with people's health, to hell with testing, to hell with anything. We did a lot of dirty dealing, and we're the first, and we're better, and whatever. It doesn't really work like that because a lot of countries in the European Union are managing pretty well with their rollout, and the European Union as a whole is not behind the United Kingdom. And really it's not something that you can actually measure adequately when it's one country against a federation. But there's a lot of drama over this and a lot of bad feeling, because I don't think anyone has any doubts over the fact that the reason why Johnson made a point of intercepting that contract with AstraZeneca was to make a point with the European Union. Oh, Boris. Yeah, so there's drama over this because Boris Johnson has no scruples, and he has no moral compass, and he has no, it's pretty bloodthirsty. And yeah, he's spent his entire career maligning the European Union, so people don't trust him, and they don't trust the United Kingdom. So there's that. But also, they don't trust the United Kingdom to keep to their side of the deal when it comes to even more important things. And the big one is the Northern Ireland situation. There's been more unrest and bloodthirstiness in Northern Ireland for the past 2 weeks, in the past 2 weeks, than there was since the Friday Agreement, the Good Friday Agreement of 1998. The tension is insane, and obviously is because there is now a de facto border between Ireland, which is still in the European Union, and Northern Ireland, which is part of the United Kingdom. And even though it's a soft border and there's freedom of movement in a way between the two countries, there is definitely an economic border there. Not a good situation. The UK government failed to address this issue completely because they don't care about Northern Ireland, and they don't care about the people of Ireland. This is not on their radar. They're conservative Tories. They only care about their own wealth and how much money they can suck out of their deals in London. Here's what a member of European Parliament had to say. This is Andreas Scheider from Austria. Brexit is a historic mistake. It was pushed through by irresponsible nationalism based on false promises and short-sightedness. This is just one of the comments that kind of went through as the vote was happening in the European Parliament. I think he was one of the people who was preparing this. In any case, it's a voice from the European Union, and it's true. But not everyone had things to say that were complimentary of the European Union today. In the European Union. And this is the scandalous thing that happened. I know Boris Johnson is a scandal himself, but this is a real scandal to me. And I'm boiling. I am boiling because of this. Michel Barnier is a famous name, an important name in the European Union. He served doing various things in the administration of the European Union for years. This is a name that comes up all the time. He's been around. He's an important official in the European Union, an important respected official. Michel Barnier. Also, now former chief of Brexit, the Brexit negotiation team. So he was, he spent the last 5 years dealing with the United Kingdom. And his speech at the European Parliament in regards to the vote on this situation was thus. He said, "It's a warning, Brexit. It's a failure of the European Union. And we have lessons to learn from it as politicians here in the European Parliament and Council, in the Commission, in all of the capitals. Why did 52% of the British people vote against Europe? There are reasons for that, and social anger and tension which existed in many regions in the UK, but also in many regions of the EU." Oh my God. Barnier, really? This is so scandalously wrong. But, I mean, there is so much wrong here. Barnier is saying here that the reason that Brexit happened, and this is like this momentous day in the European Parliament, and this big important official from the European Union is saying, yeah, Brexit happened not because Boris Johnson is an incompetent fool who's only out for his own gains and a quick buck. No. Brexit didn't happen because the Brexit party fueled people's hatred and ignorance and made it okay to be racist again. No, it wasn't that. Brexit didn't happen because of any of that. No. It happened because Europe failed these people. When Europe was the only anchor of normality that these people had. Europe was the reason why there was at least some regulation in this godforsaken United Kingdom country that didn't completely throw the poor and the disadvantaged who exist here by the extreme numbers because of the policies of the Tory party. It didn't throw them completely off the edge. Oh my God. And this is like, you are an official in the European Union. Your job is to represent the European Union. You are negotiating with a bunch of mad people for most of that time that you were negotiating the Brexit deal. And now all you have to say is, oh yeah, it was our fault. Like, all these people, the 52% who voted against Europe, it's because Europe failed them. No, it's because Europe failed to prevent the Tory party from lying to their own people. It's because the Conservative Party were also lying to their own people. That's how they got elected, on the fear of the other. But no, Michel Barnier is taking responsibility for this. Somehow. It makes me insane to think that a man like this, on a day like this, is saying that it's a European failure. Europe is not yet the United States of Europe, although it should be, and that is my vision of Europe. It is a federation of different states who have their own governments and their own ways of governing and their own narratives of the body politic. The body politic in the United Kingdom has always been the body politic of disgusting white supremacy, eugenic ideologies connected to neoliberalism, and an American psycho attitude to who gets to be on top and who gets to win and who goes to the wall. That is what caused Brexit, Michel Barnier. It wasn't Angela Merkel taking the high road when that idiot was calling her a Stasi apparatchik. And you can say a lot of things about Angela Merkel, but the fact that he said that is so insulting in that region. Stasi, of course, was the secret police in East Berlin. Angela Merkel works for the European Union so well, partly because she has that background, because she's from East Germany. And she saw the failures, and she objectively saw the way that things transitioned. There's a reason why Helmut Kohl, at that time, the Chancellor of Germany, relied on her so much. She was one of the people that the Stasi looked into. It's just so disgusting. But it was obviously meant to say to get a reaction. But no, Michel Barnier didn't mention his buddy Boris Johnson. Michel Barnier mentioned that it was his own fault and the fault of other people in the European Union. I 100% agree and understand and always talk about how we need to democratize the European process. And yes, a neoliberal system that is the overarching system of the European Union is wrong, and it does lead to despair and poverty and people having nowhere to turn. But to say that Brexit, of all things, was like the fault of the European Union is disgusting. It's slander. But Michel Barnier says that. And this is not the first time that he's caused a stir. There's been all kinds of whispers about him in the past while he was negotiating the Brexit deal. Throughout that time, he received a lot of criticism. People saying that he was too lenient, too soft. What is he, like an Anglophile? What is going on? He wasn't negotiating properly. What a disaster. Here's a speech he made. You want to hear a speech he made? I'm not going to, read the whole speech, but there's part in that speech that I find really interesting. He delivered this in 2020 at the European Movement in Ireland. I think he got an award from them or something. So here's a speech about why he bemoans Brexit and why he wishes it never happened and why he loves the United Kingdom so much. As for my personal choice, it was made many years ago in 1972 when, aged 21, I cast my first ever vote. It was at the occasion of the French referendum on the accession of the UK, Ireland, Denmark, and Norway to the European communities. I voted yes. To this day, I continue to think that I make the right choice. For two main reasons. Firstly, because whether the UK is an EU member or not, our paths are and will always be intertwined. The UK is your and our closest neighbor. So he's talking to Ireland. No, the UK is actually not the continental Europe's closest neighbor. To be precise, Barnier. Our long-standing ally and friend. Well, it depends on who you're talking about. They were not the long-standing ally and friend of the people of East Germany who were partitioned partly by the United Kingdom. As I have said before, never will I forget what the UK did for France and for Europe during the Second World War. Oh, you mean they waited for all the little countries with the brave people in them to bleed out while they went against the Nazi army, and then when there was no choice, they participated in the war? And then they whitewashed history and forgot about all the ethnically diverse people that fought on the right side of history? Or do you mean the millions of people killed by Churchill in India to feed the troops? Yeah, say that to Angela Merkel. I don't think she thinks that. Oh yeah, and then when the war ended, they partitioned Europe. So yeah, I guess half of Europe doesn't have the same sentiments. Barnier. Whenever I say Barnier, I sometimes think Garnier. Okay, anyway, and then he writes, and then he says, yeah, I'll never forget what he did for us in the war. It's inconceivable to me. There is something going on in that man's mind that is not normal. He had some kind 21 years old, 1972. A lot of Thatcher out there. That imagery in the 70s. I don't know. Was it a crush? Was he is that a fantasy Michel Barnier has about Margaret Thatcher and Thatcherism between the thighs of Thatcher or something? I don't know, but it's completely inappropriate as an official and that man is representing the people of Europe. This is not okay. But there was another thing he said, and in a speech that he gave, he actually addressed this issue. And he addressed also the president of France, Macron. Now, Barnier said France could quit the European Union if President Macron leaves it too late to learn the lessons from Brexit. That's interesting. Why would he say that? Why would Michel Barnier say that? It's almost as though he's trying to score a point with Macron. Why would that be? They're kind of on the same side of politics. They're both centrists. They kind of function in the same party circles in the European Union. Oh, yes. Because there's been a rumor going around France for a long time that Michel Barnier is going to run for president in 2020. And Michel Barnier has neither confirmed nor denied, but the word on the political street is that he is definitely feeling the feels and feeling his way through France to see if he can run, if there is enough public support. And that speech and that addressing of Macron directly and talking about Brexit and maligning the European Union is part of his campaign. He's going to run for president. And that's the line he's running on. That's the line he's running on. He's appealing to a center-right conservative faction that is strong in France. And he's like, literally, he just threw the reputation of the European Union under the bus because he wants to run for president and it's all for him and for his own gain. Never trust a conservative, ever. This is outrageous. I am personally outraged by this. This should not happen. People like that should not be allowed to use the procedures that happen in the European Parliament and that happen in the European Union, particularly when dealing with a situation as important, as sensitive as Brexit. That man should not be allowed to speak this way. And if anyone is going to take the European Union seriously, like he says, he's basically threatening Brexit. If you want people to stay in the European Union, you need to prioritize the union of the people, not your own little bid for presidential candidacy and your political career. It's disgusting. I'm so disgusted by Barnier. I cannot even tell you. I'm so disgusted by it. And you know what? Like that little speech, that is exactly what the press love. They love these sound bites. There's a lot of press narrative, and it's not just in the UK. In the UK, it's like extreme because of the, post-Brexit propaganda. That, people want to feel like they made the right choice. And a lot of these newspapers in the UK and media outlets were really pro-Brexit. So it's kind of like, it's the consensus of madness. It's like this psychosis, it needs to go on. But the world media and the world press, like, they catch that. Like, what did Barnier just say? He's a very important official in the European Union. He's been around for a long time. People know him. And to say something like that in the European Parliament when a vote like that is going through is just not, it's so wrong. And it's so disrespectful of European people in Europe. Barnier forgot to say, of course, that a lot of European citizens were subject to hate crimes and attacks, and actually quite a few of them were killed, murdered in hate crime incidents in the United Kingdom right after the referendum result was published. Because I guess, I don't know, these people just thought, well, now that we're going to leave the European Union, I guess it's not illegal to kill a person anymore. Those were European citizens. But he doesn't mention that. No, let's bend over backwards to be nice to crazy Boris and the post-Thatcherite apocalyptic government of the United Kingdom that betrayed its own people. You know what, Boris Johnson, there's like a whole scandal about Boris Johnson right now, and there's like a lot coming out. That's like another story that I'm definitely going to follow here. Follow up in the next shows because it's kind of growing and developing. But it's like, basically, it's corruption scandals in the Tory party. Oh, no shit. But the thing about Boris Johnson is that he has no human feeling. Like, there's this like, it's almost like a meme. Like, it's an apocalyptic meme. He said that he would, the United Kingdom is just coming out of the third lockdown because of the COVID. And Boris Johnson loves the economy so much, and he thinks that corporate interests are so important, especially in London, that he reportedly said in a private conversation that he would rather have the bodies pile up than go into a third lockdown. This is making the rounds in the press. He said a lot of other things, and he's incriminated in actual corruption scandals and other things like that. And that's always been the case for Boris. But to say that, like, just the imagery of this, And Barnier is bowing down to Boris Johnson. Yeah, let the bodies pile up. Let the bodies pile up. It was our fault. It was our fault. This is crazy. I am not for this. Like, at what point when you're, like, sucking someone off, like, at what point does that, like, do you suck yourself in and come out the other end? I'm sorry, the imagery, I know it's disgusting, but it's just like, the whole thing is disgusting to me. It makes us look like, he's like basically a court jester on the Queen of England's court now. Incredible. Incredible. Well, I hope that this spineless way of doing European politics will change, because this is exactly the kind of slimy, spineless moment of a big official in the European Union when we really needed them to show some dignity. Shame on you, Michel Barnier. Story number 2. Sofagate. Sofagate 2. That's right. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Sofagate. If you're following Sofagate, good for you. If not, I'm just going to give you a quick update on what happened. This is like the hottest European tea. This is like truly like, it's got everything in it. Sexism, identity politics, patriarchy, a bad apology, a bad Twitter apology, everything, okay? So a couple of weeks ago, Ursula von der Leyen, who is president of the European Commission, and Charles Michel, who is the president of the European Council, went on a diplomatic visit to Turkey to talk to Erdogan. Erdogan being everyone's favorite dictator in the European territories at the moment. He does a lot of naughty things. He's always got problems with human rights. So to like try and fix things a little bit and to try and negotiate other things, not so nice things, for example, immigration, because a lot of migrants that never made it to Europe during the migrant crisis of past years, these migrants from places like Syria, a lot of them didn't make it to Europe because Erdogan gets paid by Europe to keep them there. That's another story. But anyway, so it's always this relationship with Turkey is always, a little bit of unease, a little bit of human rights offenses, a little bit of dictatorship, but at the same time, it's good and it's lucrative in many ways for the European Union to have Turkey as a bit of a buffer, as a bit of a friend, it's a weird mutual relationship, and it's been like that for a long time. But anyway, so they went to meet Erdogan. They were going to talk, amongst other things, about how he needs to stop abusing human rights. And one of the talking points was the fact that Erdogan had recently expressed that Turkey will be leaving the Istanbul Convention, which was signed in Istanbul, which was kind of put in place in Istanbul. It wasn't necessarily signed, but okay, the Istanbul Convention. The Istanbul Convention dates back to 2011 when a bunch of world states made a commitment to uphold women's rights in their states and agreed that violence against women is a human rights issue and should be stopped, right? It was just a commitment, but it was, like a nice ideological and political thing to be a part of. Turkey was one of the first countries to ratify it. It is the Istanbul Convention. But it's been a few years, and Erdogan decided that he's going to leave the Istanbul Convention because he's tired of it. He's tired of all that human rights crap and women and not being able to beat on them. And his excuse was that the Istanbul Convention is just not in keeping with Turkish tradition, because Turkish tradition is based on patriarchy and the family, family values, and that includes beating women up, I guess. So there you go. So von der Leyen and Michel went to see him, and they had a meeting with Erdogan, and these are two very big, very important, high up officials in the European Union. It doesn't get any higher than this. And Erdogan had one seat, not two, one seat extra for the negotiations, and he motioned Charles Michel into the seat. Charles Michel, a spineless man of no substance, instead of saying, "Oh wait, there's two of us," he sat in the seat. He sat down and stared blankly at what was going on. Ursula von der Leyen was obviously uncomfortable about this. She sat on a sofa to the side of them, and the two men happily, the leader of the European Union, dedicated to human rights, women's rights, equality, progressivism of a certain kind at least, and Erdogan, the dictator of Turkey, having a nice conversation while the woman sat next to them. The press obviously picked it up, called it Sofagate. It was a big scandal. Michel then made an apology that wasn't a very good apology, because in that apology, Michel basically said, well, it's women's rights. Like, that's like my version of feminism. I'm sure Ursula agrees with me because we're equal, so it doesn't matter. I'm just going to sit down and let the woman stand because that's feminism. So he got a lot of flack for that. And then he apologized again and tried to but it was all icky, and he didn't properly apologize, and there was a lot of tension between them. They have these weekly meetings they go to. They didn't have one that week. It was really, really bad. And then, that was the cherry on top. And then Charles Michel's people said that it makes sense that he sat down first, because the president of the European Council has seniority over the president of the European Commission, according to protocol, like diplomatic protocol. And that was actually the excuse that Erdogan's people gave, saying, well, we didn't have a seat for her because he was senior to her. But actually, that is not true, because there is no protocol that's definitely there and written down that puts this into a framework of diplomatic trips and diplomatic relations, just because it's not been written. There is no protocol. This is something that people can infer and interpret according to the way that they want to infer and interpret it. And Ursula von der Leyen has not been happy about this situation, but it's kind of been brewing. It's been brewing. She hasn't really said anything she hasn't been too spicy about it. She's just been quietly, in that European Union quiet kind of way. Quiet but dangerous. She's been quiet about it until yesterday, when she gave a speech on this. She spoke out on this. She actually addressed this publicly, and it was very moving. Very moving. And oh my God, Charles Michel is in so much trouble. This man, to survive a scandal of this proportion is going to be amazing. And he will, because a lot of these European Union officials are disgusting, slimy, spineless, treacherous so-and-sos who have no respect for women, really. They talk about it. People always talk about it, make a big point about it. But do they really respect women? Clearly not. And clearly, the people in Charles Michel's circle, the European Council staff, did not think that this was truly, a disaster. But you know what? The women, they've had enough. And Ursula von der Leyen spoke out about this, and she did not mince words. She said, it happened because I am a woman. She's very clear on this. It happened because I am a woman. Not because of protocol. Not because there's a hierarchy. Which is kind of half true. The European Council is more of a representative a body. But she made a point of saying that. And she says, when she talks about this, she says, I checked the protocols. I checked myself, Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission. I checked it. And I found nothing that would suggest that I should be sitting on the sofa. and he should be, oh my God, it was so good. It was so good. Okay, here she is. Let's just watch her.
I am the first woman to be president of the European Commission. I am the president of the European Commission. And this is how I expected to be treated when visiting Turkey 2 weeks ago, like a Commission president. But I was not.
I may not be about all the politics that Ursula von der Leyen represents, but I love her right now. I love her, and I love that she took the time to think about it. She didn't say in the moment. It didn't escalate. But this is something that really will be an example to girls and to women. This cannot be explained away this way. I think she's doing the right thing. I think she's doing it her own way, and she's like totally destroying him and destroying any shitty apology ever made by a man and by a European official ever.
Honorable members, many of you will have made quite similar experiences in the past, especially the female members of this House. I'm sure you know exactly how I felt. I felt hurt, and I felt alone, as a woman and as a European.
It happens all the time. And people, as long as they can deny it, people don't want to be bothered by it. I know we've made progress. We've had Me Too. We've had feminism is not a dirty word anymore. So young women are able to identify as feminists. But this is still so backwards. And it's shitty feminism, and it's a shitty kind of ally like Michel Barnier that goes out there and says that. There's like a million men I know like this. A million cis men of privilege that I know who are like this, who will trample over a woman, be shitty to her on purpose in a very special way, treat her like crap at work, in their home, whatever. And then say, oh, but you said you're a feminist, so it's equal.
I am the president of an institution which is highly respected all around the world. And even more important, as a leader, I can speak up and make myself heard. But what about the millions of women who cannot?
I'm ashamed for Michel Barnier. I'm ashamed for him. I'm glad she said this. Like I say, a lot of the Ursula von der Leyen politic, not necessarily just when it comes to the European Union, like the main thing with me and Ursula von der Leyen is that I'm not a neoliberal. And that is like a divide you can't really breach, but I love her now. I love her as a person. This is like, so I think on like, there's a level on which this can be good because it can be a way to personalize these people a little bit more and make it a little bit more interesting for the citizens of Europe to be involved a little bit more on a personal level. I wish the European Union had more officials that were able to show that side of themselves.
Exprimer mes regrets publiquement pour la situation qui a été créée, regrets vis-à-vis de la présidente de la Commission et vis-à-vis de l'ensemble de celles qui se sont senties offensées. C'est une critique que j'entends naturellement.
The response from not Michel Barnier, too many Michaels, from Charles Michel.
Mais à cet instant, et sans le recul que nous avons tous aujourd'hui, j'ai décidé de ne pas réagir davantage afin de ne pas créer un incident politique que j'ai pensé plus grave encore, qui aurait pris le risque de ruiner des mois de préparation politique.
Like, not to like harp on about this, but something like this has never, ever, 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 ever happened in the European Union. Ever. Ever. This is like the top people, this is like the president and the vice president, and they are having like a sexism situation in the public eye. And the final drama is both scary and very scary. There's like not a lot of funny to it, but although maybe in a weird postmodern kind of way. There is a diplomatic note going around the European Union these things happen. Diplomatic notes informally kind of circulate sometimes. This is a body of government. It happens. It happens in every country. But this note is extra special because it pertains to the Balkans. The Balkans being a contested region in Europe, complicated by the ravages of communism and later Anglo-American imperialism. Not the best place to be. And there's a note going around that stipulates that the borders around these countries in this region could be redrawn around ethnic lines. Ethnic lines. That this could happen. This is a good idea. And this would, in turn, be a way to aid integration into the European Union, because a lot of countries in that region, not just the former Yugoslav countries, but in the Balkans that are very contested and always have been this place of unrest. But like that entire Balkan region, right? So this note is saying, you know what, like, let's just redraw this based on ethnicity and, like, race. The whole point of the Kosovo War was that, including the massacres and the rapes and the unrest and the imperialist violence that came from the West in the form of aid. The former Yugoslav countries have always been at war with each other. Not because it's a country where, not because it's a region where there's a lot of war, but it's a region that has been a pawn in the historical makings of Europe and of the world. When the USSR fell in the early 90s, these states fell into the hands of other bad actors, like imperialism on the Western side, consumerism, rabid capitalism without any checks, corporations, nationalism. A new kind of right-wing conservative nationalism that was a reactionary answer to the USSR. And pretty much every country in the former Eastern Bloc has experienced that. Yeah, not surprising. But for a note to kind of be going around and suggesting that this can actually happen today is incredibly, this is just like, it's like lighting gasoline on fire. Like, this is so bad for that to even be kind of out there as like some kind of a provocative thing. This region is really important to Europe. It's part of European history. I remember as a kid, like as a politicized child, like watching the news, and like there was always a war in Yugoslavia, and there were always children in Yugoslavia who needed help, like according to the news at that time. Like, I will never forget that. And it's like somebody was always helping Yugoslav children. And then it decimated into the former Yugoslavia, and that was like the transition of it, and it was still Yugoslavia, but not really. And then we had conflict after conflict after conflict because of bad actors. And a lot of it was, like, a lot of this hate was stoked based on ethnicity, heritage, religion, the usual, right? This would be really bad, but who could be saying this? Who might be sending this note around the European Union, suggesting such a thing if it's so bad and explosive? I mean, who would do such a thing? Well, apparently, the author of this note is not completely unknown, and allegedly it is Janes Jansa, who is the Prime Minister of Slovenia, also a former Yugoslav state. Janes Jansa is, like, his reputation in Europe is that he is the Trump of Europe. He wants to be the Trump of Europe. That's all you need to know about him. He's a rabid nationalist, performative, career politician, wannabe dictator. So of course he would say that. It's a shame that, like, he happens to be in Slovenia where he might actually do a lot of damage. He's reportedly sent it. Like, he sent it to Charles Michel, another spineless. Well, we just addressed his spineless situation of his spine. Okay, so yeah, so Janes Jansa is like trying to provoke some kind of a situation, and like this proposal, the reasoning behind it, or like this diplomatic note, this idea. The reasoning behind it is that although the former Yugoslav region has been stabilized considerably in the last couple of decades, there's still unease and there's still hostility. There's still all kinds of things that could happen, particularly, you know, when you're looking at the Kosovo-Serbia border, there's still like unease and it's not clear, and because you have to remember these states were not always separate, they were always a part of Yugoslavia for a very, very long time, so a lot of these identities aren't very concrete. Obviously people's identities can be fluid, and you can feel belonging to more than one state or more than one ethnic identity. So it's been like a slow process of kind of evening things out, and mainly because of all these conflicts in the region, a lot of these states have not been able to join the European Union, and they should be, you know, like, that's another thing. Considering how much involvement there's been from the West, by the West, I just mean like the Western military industrial complex. It's amazing that not more help was given to these states to kind of climb out of that post-USSR hole. But that's not how the world works, right? And the European Union, well, one thing the European Union does well is kind of negotiate things like slowly and mediate things to death. So it may very well be that the European Union is best equipped to deal with this current situation. This obviously will not happen. This is like a political ploy. This is never going to happen. It would be disastrous. It would be insane. It would be insane to go to a place where you had an ethnic war 20 years ago and start like redoing the border lines based on ethnicity. It's meant to provoke. It's meant... Janes Jansa is doing this on purpose to provoke people because he's Trump. And Slovenia is about to take up the presidency of Europe together with Portugal and Germany. The presidency of Europe is like this revolving cycle. Every 6 months, a trio of countries represents the European Union. They just administer procedures, and it's like a figurehead thing. It doesn't really affect anything other than if you get your hands on that presidency, or rather your country, and you happen to be someone like Trump or Janes Jansa, you could do a lot of damage by saying a lot of horrible, crazy things that might actually provoke someone into a war. So there's this big controversy because the presidency of Slovenia begins in July this year. So that's going to be an interesting late summer, early fall in the European Union. It's distasteful. I believe he did it. It was him. He sent the letter. The letter reached its destination, and that's just how it is. You know, it's things like this, and this is like top, like, it's kind of like mysterious and top secret, but it's not like really kind of out there. Again, like, there needs to be like better reporting on this stuff, and there needs to be a way that we can talk about these things that are kind of self-narrated too, because the reason why I'm here today with you is not because I love European drama and Ursula von der Leyen, although I love her now, but because I think that there is no media for us. There is no space and no forum to talk about these stories, even on this like very basic commentary level. I'm not doing like investigative journalism. I'm not like uncovering some secret stories. This is kind of out there, but we're not talking about this, and we're not discussing these things in the context of Europe and the world and like global issues. Europeans and people who live in Europe need a place where this news and this body politic can be disseminated by Europeans, by normal people, by people who have their own channels, by people who have their own podcasts, not by Politico, not by whatever the European Union publishes that day on their website, but by us. Because it doesn't just affect Europe and people who live in Europe, it affects the world, it affects global relations. Whatever happens with this node in the Balkans is going to have consequences for everybody else in different parts of the world, literally everywhere. Like this has consequences everywhere. We need a better non-mainstream media to discuss it and to connect over it. So anyway, this note's been circulating. However, there is more to the story. There is more drama and more spice, because it just happens that the president of Serbia, Alexander Vučić, was in Brussels on Monday talking to von der Leyen about Serbia's chances and Serbia's situation regarding joining the European Union. And von der Leyen and Brussels is clear on this issue that the Serbia-Kosovo relationship needs to be super stable and super good and without any problematic things going on before that happens. He was just here. And this crazy guy, so this is the guy from Serbia who's in Brussels, and the crazy Trump guy from Slovenia is sending out this kind of crap. This is like recent history. This is my entire childhood really was hearing about Yugoslavia and how Yugoslav children need help, like on TV news. I really identify with Yugoslav children in a way, because it was like such an important part of my childhood, because there was always a conflict in former Yugoslavia. Because of people like the Prime Minister of Slovenia, who is trying to stoke this fire of hatred and rivalry. And yeah, Serbia needs to join the European Union. Kosovo needs to join. It would be best if they could join together, if they could be given subsidies, if they could be given help from the European Union to put this stuff to rest. We live on it's a tiny planet we live on, and we also live, it's a tiny, tiny continent in Europe. We all really need to get along. So there you go. And of course, Slovenia kind of escaped like the worst of the Balkan conflict, but I have a special kind of affinity with Slovenia, of course, because really like the spiritual patron saint of the show is naturally, as some of you will have guessed by now, Melania Trump. No, I'm just kidding. It's Slavoj Žižek. And of course he is a famous Slovene, and so is Melania, but for different reasons. But yeah, we love Slavoj Žižek here. I love you, Slavoj. And, well, it's a love-hate thing, but mainly love. Less hate. And, yeah, it's just like, it's so disturbing, like, how close we are to each other, and how close we are constantly to renewing the conflicts and old wounds, and so many people dying. A lot of people died in Kosovo for no good reason. In 1998, 99. And the bombs from NATO and the Anglo-American industrial complex, that involvement didn't help the people of Kosovo. It bombed them. It didn't really help them. And now it's a mess. And now this crazy guy, Janes Jansa, is sending notes to the European Union saying that we just need to partition everything on ethnic lines. But it's drama. There's been no comment from the European Union. They just said we don't comment on things that, like, we just don't comment on that. And it's like, that's going to be it. But it's a flavor and it's a foretaste of things to come. This guy, Janes Jansa, he's going to be a real pain in the ass. And people are already really upset by it. And obviously, countries like Bosnia have been incredibly offended by this. And there's like, already there's like, reports, at least according to Reuters, who saw the note, there's been reports of this like causing already ripples of unrest in the region. Well done. Well done. And yeah, that's all I have to say. I've decided that on the show, we're going to do two things. Every time I see you, we're going to have a little meter. It's like a life meter, life vitals sign meter for Alexei Navalny. We're going to make sure he's still alive. And another meter for Denmark. We're going to measure whether Denmark is still racist. And Alexei Navalny, still alive. Good for him. Well done. And Denmark, yeah, still racist. Still trying to deport Syrian migrants back to Syria, engaged in an active conflict. Yes, still racist. Excellent. So, congratulations to Alexei Navalny on being alive. I really thought Putin would kill him, but I guess he didn't. Maybe he's just getting a little soft in his old age. Who knows? I really appreciate you watching this. This is all very new. I have like this vision for European news that's critical, that's progressive, that's different. Will it work out? I hope so. One way or another. I know there's a taste for it. I know there's people interested in these issues, and I know that there's people who are affected by those issues. So I trust that you will be here next time, and that you will be interested, and that you will support the show however way you want. If you could subscribe, that would be great if you're interested. If you didn't like the video, give it a thumbs down. Negativity is also attention. I will take it. If you're Slavoj Žižek, thank you for your inspiration, and thank you for Slovenia. And I hope that the next time I see you, Alexei Navalny will still be alive, and that and I hope that Denmark will no longer be racist. We'll just have to wait and see. Until next time, my friends, take care, and most importantly, stay safe out there.